The dust rose like phantom riders along the horizon as Dr. Anna Holliday squinted toward the sprawling ranch that dominated the valley. Thornton Ranch, the largest spread in Cottonwood County, its weathered timber and stone structures testament to one man's determination to carve empire from wilderness. Anna adjusted her spectacles and ignored the ache in her lower back from 3 days in a jolting stagecoach. The driver had fallen silent miles back when she'd mentioned her profession, as if the mere concept of a woman physician had rendered him mute with disbelief. "That'll be the big house up ahead, ma'am," he finally offered, gesturing with his whip toward a 2-story structure nestled against the foothills. "Mr. Thornton don't much care for visitors these days." "I'm not a visitor," Anna replied, her voice steady despite her exhaustion. "I'm a doctor, and I was summoned." The driver made a sound somewhere between a snort and a cough. "Well, you're the first in 3 years to get past the gate. Not since Mrs. Thornton passed." Anna had heard the rumors during her brief stop in the nearby town of Clearwater Springs. Michael Thornton, once the most sociable rancher in the territory, had withdrawn from the world after his wife's death in childbirth. Now that same child, a girl of nearly 3, was desperately ill, and Thornton had been forced to reach beyond his isolation for help. The carriage rattled over a wooden bridge spanning a creek, swollen with spring runoff. Up close, Anna could see that the ranch house, while imposing, showed signs of neglect: peeling paint, untended flower beds, shutters hanging askew. A place in mourning, just like its owner. As they pulled into the yard, the front door swung open. A man emerged, tall and broad-shouldered, with dark hair streaked prematurely with silver at the temples. His face might once have been handsome, but grief had carved harsh lines around his mouth and between his brows. He wore the practical clothes of a working rancher, not the finery his wealth might have afforded. "Mr. Thornton," Anna said, extending her hand as she stepped down from the carriage. "I'm Dr. Anna Holliday. I received your telegram about your daughter." Michael Thornton stared at her outstretched hand as if it were a strange artifact. His eyes, a startling blue against his sun-darkened skin, narrowed with disbelief. "You're the doctor?" The question held the same incredulity she'd faced her entire career. "From Boston, a Yale medical school, sir. Class of '68, one of the first women admitted." Anna kept her hand extended, refusing to be the first to withdraw. "Your telegram said your daughter's condition was critical. Every hour counts." Thornton hesitated a moment longer, then took her hand in a brief, reluctant grip. "I sent for Dr. Holliday. You assumed I was a man," Anna finished for him. "A common misunderstanding. Now, please take me to your daughter." Something flickered in his eyes. Anger, desperation, resignation, before he turned abruptly. "This way. She's upstairs." The interior of the ranch house matched its exterior, what had once been elegance now dulled by neglect. Dust motes danced in the shafts of afternoon light, streaming through the windows. The furniture was quality, but draped with sheets, as if the living had abandoned all but the most necessary spaces to ghosts. The exception was the nursery. As Thornton opened the door to a room at the top of the stairs, Anna stepped into a space so lovingly maintained, it might have existed in another house entirely. Careful yellow wallpaper, decorated with tiny birds. A rocking horse in one corner. Shelves lined with books and toys. And in the center, a small bed where a child lay frighteningly still, her face flushed with fever. Anna moved forward instantly, medical instincts overriding all else. She placed her black bag on the bedside table and removed her gloves, bending over the small figure. The child's breathing was labored, her nightgown damp with sweat. "Her name is Elizabeth," Thornton said from just inside the doorway, as if unable to approach closer. "After her mother." "Hello, Elizabeth," Anna said softly, though the child showed no sign of hearing. Her small hand was burning when Anna took it in her own. "How long has she been like this?" "The fever started 5 days ago. Our housekeeper, Mrs. Abernathy, tried the usual remedies, cool compresses, willow bark tea. But yesterday she couldn't be roused for more than a few minutes at a time." Anna pressed her fingers to the child's throat, counting the rapid pulse. She reached into her bag for her stethoscope and thermometer, tools still viewed with suspicion in many rural communities. "The local doctor?" she asked as she placed the stethoscope against Elizabeth's chest. "Doc Wilson is 73 and hasn't left his bottle long enough to practice real medicine in years," Thornton replied. bitterness edging his voice. The next nearest physician is in Bozeman, 3 days' ride. When I telegraphed, they said you were already in Helena, consulting on a case, that you might come quickly. Anna listened to the child's lungs, hearing the telltale congestion. Elizabeth's breathing was shallow and rapid. When Anna gently pulled back an eyelid, the pupil contracted sluggishly. She has pneumonia, Anna said, straightening. Severe case. Her fever is dangerously high, and fluid is building in her lungs. She turned to face Thornton fully. I'll be honest with you, Mr. Thornton. Your daughter is very ill. If we'd caught this earlier. Will she live? He interrupted, his voice raw. Just tell me that. Anna had never been one to offer false comfort. I don't know, she said, but I'll do everything in my power to save her. I need clean linens, as much fresh water as you can bring, ice if you have it. Everything. Whatever you need. And I'll need your trust, Anna added. Even when my methods seem strange to you. Even when there's no progress. Can you give me that? Thornton's expression hardened. I trusted doctors once before, Dr. Holliday. They promised they could save my wife. He moved to the window, staring out at the distant mountains. But for Elizabeth's sake, I'll try. I was the best Anna could hope for. Then let's begin. The next hours passed in a blur of urgent activity. Anna administered quinine for the fever, prepared a mustard plaster for Elizabeth's chest, and began the delicate work of drawing fluid from the child's lungs with a hollow needle. Thornton watched from the doorway, his face a mask of barely contained terror. You're stabbing her, he said hoarsely when Anna first inserted the needle. I'm saving her, Anna corrected without looking up. This fluid would drown her from within if left unchecked. By midnight, Elizabeth's fever had dropped slightly, not enough to celebrate, but enough to give Anna her first moment of cautious hope. The child still hadn't regained consciousness, but her breathing seemed less labored. You should rest, Anna told Thornton, who hadn't left his post by the door. There's nothing more to be done tonight except maintain the cold, compresses, and monitor her breathing. I don't sleep much anyway, he replied, his gaze fixed on his daughter's small form. Not since. He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. Then at least sit, Anna said, gesturing to a chair she pulled next to the bed. I can work around you. Thornton hesitated, then moved into the room properly for the first time since they'd arrived. He lowered himself into the chair with the careful movements of a man far older than his years. His hand hovered over Elizabeth's, not quite touching, as if afraid his very contact might shatter her. She looks like her mother, he said softly. Same eyes, same smile when she does smile. Tell me about her, Anna said as she prepared another dose of medicine. Elizabeth, I mean. Something in Thornton's face eased slightly. She's spirited, fearless. Last month she tried to climb onto one of the yearlings in the corral. Nearly gave Mrs. Abernathy heart failure. The ghost of a smile touched his lips before fading. She loves stories about animals. Stars. She always asks about the stars. Then she's a girl of excellent taste, Anna said, administering the medicine drop by drop into Elizabeth's slack mouth, massaging her throat to ensure she swallowed. I was similar at her age, always asking questions that made my father uncomfortable. Your father didn't approve of your curiosity. He didn't approve of much about me, Anna replied, especially not my desire to become a physician. In his view, women were meant for the psych room only as nurses and caregivers, never as doctors making the decisions. Yet here you are. Yet here I am. Anna's smile was brief but genuine. Stubborn runs in the Holliday family, it seems. Thornton studied her with new interest. How did you convince him? I didn't. I defied. Anna wrung out a cloth in cool water and placed it on Elizabeth's forehead. He disowned me when I enrolled in medical school. We haven't spoken in 12 years. A silence fell between them, broken only by Elizabeth's labored breathing and the tick of a small clock on the mantel. Outside, the wind had risen, whistling around the eaves of the old house. Why did you come? Thornton asked. To this territory, I mean. A woman doctor from Yale could practice anywhere. Anna considered her answer carefully. Because here, my skills matter more than my gender. In Boston, I was a curiosity at best, a scandal at worst. Here, I'm just the doctor who might save your child's life. And if you can't? The question was barely audible. Anna met his gaze directly. Then I'll have failed, but not for lack of trying, and not because I'm a woman. Something shifted in Thornton's expression. A subtle rearrangement of the lines grief had carved in his face. Not acceptance, not yet, but perhaps the first crack in a wall built of sorrow and distrust. The night stretched long. Anna dozed in short bursts, always waking to check. Sometime before dawn, she opened her eyes to find Thornton had finally succumbed to exhaustion, his head resting against the back of the chair, one hand now finally touching his daughter's. Anna studied them. The man's face, relaxed in sleep, revealed the person he must have been before tragedy struck. Younger, less hardened. And the child, so small against the pillows, fighting a battle her body was barely equipped to wage. "Hold on, Elizabeth," Anna whispered. "Your father needs you to stay." A morning brought Mrs. Abernathy, the housekeeper, a stout, practical woman with iron gray hair and suspicious eyes that softened only when they fell on Elizabeth. She brought fresh linens and a tray of food for Anna, along with undisguised curiosity. "Never thought I'd see the day," she muttered, straightening the bedclothes with practiced efficiency. "A lady doctor in this house. Or would you prefer I leave and let Elizabeth's condition worsen?" Anna asked mildly as she prepared a dropper of digitalis tincture. Mrs. Abernathy's lips pressed into a thin line. "I've been caring for that child since the day she was born." Since her mother, she glanced at Thornton, who had stepped out to confer with his foreman. "Well, she's all he has left. All any of us have left of the way things were." Anna softened her tone. "Then we want the same thing. To see her well again." The older woman studied her a moment longer, then nodded curtly. "What do you need from me?" "A fresh air for one thing," Anna said, moving to the windows that had remained sealed against the elements. "Sunlight and moving air are vital to recovery, and I need to know everything about Elizabeth's health. Since birth, as the windows were opened for what might have been the first time in years, Anna learned the child's history. Born 6 weeks early after a difficult labor that claimed her mother. Sickly at first, but gradually growing stronger. No major illnesses until last winter, when a cough had settled in her chest and lingered far too long. Mr. Thornton wouldn't have the doctor then, Mrs. Abernathy confided. Not after what happened with Mrs. Elizabeth. Said he'd never trust another physician in his house. Yet he sent for me, Anna noted. Desperation makes a man do things he swore he never would. The housekeeper's gaze was direct. He blames doctors for his wife's death. Blames himself too for not being able to save her. Don't expect gratitude, even if you work a miracle here. I don't need gratitude, Anna replied. Just cooperation. Throughout the day, Elizabeth's condition remained precarious. The fever rose again by mid-morning, sending Anna into a fresh round of urgent treatments. She tried everything in her medical arsenal: cold packs, carefully calibrated doses of medicine, steam tents to ease the child's breathing. Thornton returned to his place by the bed, silent but watchful. His presence was both reassuring and unnerving to Anna. She felt his eyes on her hands as she worked, measuring every movement, every decision, waiting perhaps for her to fail as the doctors had failed his wife. By evening, Elizabeth had neither improved nor worsened. A stalemate that Anna knew could not last. The child's small body could only fight for so long before exhaustion set in. They needed a breakthrough. I'm going to try something, Anna said, as twilight deepened outside the windows. Treatment I developed during the war. For soldiers with lung infections. Thornton straightened. What kind of treatment? A eucalyptus oil in hot water, creating a vapor for her to breathe. It helps open the airways, thin the secretions in the lungs. Anna began unpacking the necessary supplies from her bag. It's not in the standard medical text yet, but I've seen remarkable results. Experimental then. His voice held a new edge of wariness. Anna met his gaze steadily. Yes, but less risky than doing nothing while pneumonia slowly suffocates her. For a long moment, Thornton was silent, the battle between his instinctive distrust of doctors and his desperate love for his daughter, playing out across his features. Finally, he gave a short nod. Do what you must. The treatment was simple in theory, but delicate in execution. Anna created a tent over Elizabeth's bed using sheets and arranged a pot of steaming water, infused with eucalyptus oil, so that the vapor filled the enclosed space. Then she sat beside the child, monitoring her breathing, ready to remove her if the treatment proved too intense. What made you think of this? Thornton asked from his position at the foot of the bed. watching the rising steam with wary fascination. Necessity, Anna replied. In a field hospital near Fredericksburg, we had dozens of men developing pneumonia after exposure to cold and rain in the trenches. Traditional treatments weren't working fast enough. I remembered reading about Australian Aboriginal healing practices using eucalyptus and decided to try it. My commanding officer thought I was mad. How were you? Mad to try it, perhaps. But 15 men who would have died lived instead. Anna checked Elizabeth's pulse, finding it still rapid but perhaps a touch stronger. Sometimes madness and inspiration look remarkably similar, especially in medicine. A ghost of a smile touched Thornton. My Elizabeth, my wife, used to say something similar about art. She was a painter. Before we came west, said the line between genius and insanity was drawn by whoever was holding the brush. Anna glanced up in surprise. It was the first time he'd volunteered information about his wife. Without prompting. She sounds like a remarkable woman. She was. The simple past tense hung heavy in the steam-filled air. Too remarkable for this place, probably. For me. Yet she chose to come with you, Anna observed. To build a life here. Thornton turned away, his profile sharp against the lamplight, and died for that choice. Mr. Thornton, Anna's voice was gentle but firm. I can't presume to know your grief. But I've seen enough death to know that blame solves nothing. It doesn't bring anyone back. It doesn't honor their memory. When he turned back to her, his eyes held a complexity of emotion Anna couldn't fully decipher. You speak plainly, Dr. Holliday. I find it saves time, she replied. And my patients seem to appreciate knowing where they stand with me, even when the truth is hard to hear, especially. Anna checked Elizabeth's breathing, finding it slightly less labored. Truth is like medicine that way, often bitter, but necessary for healing. They fell into silence again as the treatment continued. Outside, the wind had died down, and the sounds of the ranch settling into night drifted through the open window. Distant cattle lowing, the creak of windmill blades, a coyote's lonely call from the hills. Almost didn't open your telegram, Thornton said suddenly. When it arrived 3 days ago, almost burned it unread. Anna looked up from her patient. Why? Because accepting help meant accepting that I couldn't save her myself. That I was failing her just as I failed her mother. His voice was low, meant perhaps more for himself than for Anna. And because doctors took one Elizabeth from me already. The thought of entrusting the other to another physician seemed like tempting fate. What changed your mind? She did. He nodded toward his daughter. She looked at me with her mother's eyes and said, Hurts, Papa. And I knew my pride wasn't worth her life, and absorbed this understanding for the first time the true depth of the trust Thornton had placed in her, however reluctantly. You made the right choice, we'll see. But there was less challenge in his tone than there had been before. The eucalyptus treatment continued through the night, with Anna refreshing the steaming water every hour. By dawn, a change was evident. Elizabeth's breathing had eased significantly, and the rattling congestion in her chest had diminished. Anna removed the tent to examine her more thoroughly, her heart lifting at what she found. The fever's breaking, she announced, genuine relief in her voice, and her lungs sound clearer. The treatment is working. Thornton, who had dozed in his chair, was instantly alert. She'll recover? If this improvement continues, yes. But we're not out of danger yet. Anna pulled back an eyelid gently, pleased to see the pupil contract. The next 24 hours will be critical. But I believe the worst has passed. As if in answer to words, Elizabeth stirred, her small fingers twitching against the sheets. Her eyelids fluttered, then opened fully for the first time since Anna had arrived. Her gaze was confused but alert as it moved from Anna to her father. Papa? The word was barely a whisper, hoarse from disuse and illness. Thornton was on his knees beside the bed in an instant, his large hand engulfing his daughter's tiny one. I'm here, sweetheart. I'm right here. Her hurts, she murmured, her free hand moving weakly toward her chest. I know, darling, but this lady is making you better. She's a doctor, like the ones in your books. Thornton glanced up at Anna, and for the first time, she saw naked gratitude in his eyes. Anna moved forward, smiling gently at her young patient. Hello, Elizabeth. My name is Dr. Anna. You've been very sick, but you're getting better now. But the child regarded her with solemn curiosity. Lady Doctor? Oh, that's right. Just like in your stories. Anna produced her stethoscope. May I listen to your chest again? It won't hurt, I promise. Elizabeth nodded weakly, her eyes already beginning to drift closed again. Anna completed her examination quickly, confirming her initial assessment. The child was improving, though still very weak. When Elizabeth had fallen back into a more natural sleep, Anna straightened, suddenly aware of her own exhaustion. You need rest, Thornton said, observing her closely. You've been awake for almost 2 days. So have you, Anna countered. I'm used to it. He stood, stretching muscles stiff from hours in the chair. Mrs. Abernathy has prepared a room for you. I'll stay with Elizabeth. Anna wanted to argue but knew he was right. She needed at least a few hours of sleep to function effectively. Call me if there's any change at all. Any change, Mr. Thornton? I will, and he hesitated. Thank you for what you've done so far. It wasn't effusive gratitude, but for Michael Thornton, Anna suspected it was significant. She nodded acknowledgement and made her way to the guest room on unsteady legs. Sleep claimed her almost instantly. When she woke, the quality of light suggested late afternoon. Anna jerked upright, alarmed at having slept so long. She dressed quickly and hurried to the nursery, expecting the worst. Instead, she found Elizabeth propped up on pillows, still pale but awake, with Thornton reading to her from a well-worn book of fairy tales. The scene was so unexpectedly domestic that Anna paused in the doorway, reluctant to intrude. Dr. Anna? Elizabeth spotted her first, her voice weak but unmistakably pleased. Papa's reading about princesses. Thornton looked up, closing the book with careful precision. She woke about an hour ago, asking for water, then a story. I hoped it was a good sign. That's an excellent sign, Anna confirmed, moving to check her patient's vital signs. Elizabeth's pulse was still rapid, but stronger, her fever much reduced. When Anna pressed the stethoscope to her chest, the improvement was dramatic. The congestion had cleared significantly, and air moved more freely through her lungs. The medicine tastes yucky, Elizabeth informed her solemnly. The best medicines often do, Anna replied with equal solemnity. It means they're working extra hard to make you better. Like how the yukiest vegetables are the best for you. Anna smiled. Exactly like that. That's what Mama always said. Elizabeth continued, unaware of how her words affected her father. About vegetables, I mean. I don't remember her saying about medicine. Thornton's expression tightened, but he recovered quickly. Your mother was very wise, especially about vegetables. Elizabeth's attention had already shifted. But first, some more of that yucky medicine. As Anna prepared the next dose, she observed Thornton with his daughter. The transformation was remarkable. The bitter, grieving man who had met her stagecoach seemed replaced by someone gentler, more present. He spoke to Elizabeth with a quiet tenderness that revealed how deeply he loved her, how terrified he must have been at the prospect of losing her. The next few days established a new rhythm. Elizabeth improved steadily, her strength returning in small but significant increments. She sat up longer each day, ate with increasing appetite, and filled the nursery with chatter that grew more animated as her health returned. Anna continued her treatments, gradually reducing the medicines as they became less necessary. She found herself lingering in the nursery, even when medical attention wasn't required, drawn by Elizabeth's bright spirit and, increasingly, by Thornton's changing demeanor. He smiled more, the expression transforming his face. He spoke of the ranch, of his plans for it, of the life he'd envisioned when he first came west. And occasionally, carefully, he mentioned Elizabeth, his wife, offering small details that built a portrait of the woman he had loved and lost. She was the one who wanted to name the ranch after me, he told Anna. He told Anna one evening as they sat on the porch, Elizabeth having finally fallen asleep after demanding 3 bedtimes. I wanted to call it Horizon because that's what drew us west, the endless horizon. But she insisted. Thornton Ranch, she said, so everyone knows who built it. She sounds like she was very proud of you, Anna observed. She believed in me, even when I didn't deserve it. He gazed out at the land that stretched away into gathering darkness. When she died, I stopped believing in much of anything. Except Elizabeth, Anna said softly. Except Elizabeth, he agreed. And even then, I kept her at arm's length for too long, afraid to love her as completely as I'd loved her mother, knowing how easily she could be taken from me too. A fear is a natural response to loss, Anna said, but it's a poor foundation for living. Believe me, I know. Thornton turned to her, curiosity evident in his expression. You've lost someone too. Anna hesitated, unused to speaking of her own pain. My husband. During the war. We had only been married a year when he volunteered. I'm sorry. The words were simple but sincere. He believed in the cause. Anna continued. As did I. After he died, I threw myself into medicine, into saving others, as if it could somehow balance the scale. As if enough lives saved might make up for the one lost. Does it work that way? No, Anna admitted. But the work itself has value, purpose. And there's a different kind of healing in helping others, even when your own wounds remain. They sat in companionable silence as stars appeared overhead, brilliant in the clear mountain air. From somewhere in the darkness came the sound of a night bird calling, lonely and sweet. You'll be leaving soon, Thornton said at last, now that Elizabeth is recovering. Yes, I have patients in Helena who need me, and a practice to maintain. Anna was surprised at her own reluctance to confirm this obvious fact, but not for a few days yet. I want to be certain Elizabeth is fully on the mend. Of course, Thornton cleared his throat. We're grateful for your care, more than I can properly express. You don't need to express it, Anna replied. I can see it in how you look at your daughter now, how you've opened yourself to her again. That's payment enough for any physician. His gaze, when it turned to her, held something complex and unreadable. Is it enough? The question seemed to contain layers Anna wasn't sure she understood, or perhaps was afraid to interpret correctly. Before she could formulate a response, Mrs. Abernathy appeared in the doorway. Begging your pardon, Mr. Thornton, but there's a rider come from town. Telegram for Dr. Holliday, says it's urgent. The spell broken out. Thank you, Mrs. Abernathy. I'll come right away. The telegram was brief but clear. An outbreak of scarlet fever in Helena required her immediate return. At least a dozen children affected already, with more cases suspected. Bad news? Thornton asked, observing her expression as she folded the paper. An epidemic in Helena. Scarlet fever. Anna's mind was already calculating travel times, necessary preparations. I need to leave first thing in the morning. Of course. His response was immediate, though something in his manner suggested reluctance. I'll have Thomas prepare the carriage to take you to meet the eastbound stage. Thank you. Anna hesitated. I should check on Elizabeth once more before I retire and leave detailed instructions for her continued care. She'll be disappointed to lose her lady doctor, Thornton said, a slight smile softening the statement. She's grown quite attached. Not only Elizabeth, Anna thought but did not say. The connection that had formed between herself and Michael Thornton was unexpected but undeniable. A meeting of minds that had somehow transcended their initial friction to become something like friendship, or perhaps something more. Had circumstances been different, she'll be fine, Anna said firmly, pushing such thoughts aside. Children are remarkably resilient, and she has you to watch over her now. That night, Anna packed her belongings efficiently, leaving out only what she would need in the morning. Her medical bag. She reorganized completely, taking inventory of what had been used and what remained, mentally noting supplies she would need to replenish in Helena. She slept poorly, her dreams a confused tangle of hospital wards and ranch houses, of Elizabeth's fever-bright eyes and Thornton's face as he looked at her on the porch, asking a question she hadn't quite answered. Morning arrived cool and clear. Anna dressed in her traveling clothes, a practical dark blue ensemble with a matching hat, and made her final rounds. Elizabeth was still sleeping, her color good, her breathing easy and regular. Anna placed a gentle hand on her forehead, confirming the absence of fever, and felt a swell of professional pride mixed with genuine affection for this brave little patient. Sleep well, Elizabeth, she whispered. Grow strong. Be happy. She left written instructions with Mrs. Abernathy, who received them with unexpected warmth. You did right by her, the housekeeper said gruffly. By both of them. Don't think I haven't noticed how the master's changed since you came. I only treated Elizabeth's illness, Anna demurred. Any change in Mr. Thornton is his own doing. Maybe so. But you gave him reason to try. Hope, I suppose you'd call it. Mrs. Abernathy straightened her apron. That's a kind of medicine too, isn't it? Before Anna could respond, Thornton himself appeared in the hallway. The carriage is ready, Dr. Holliday. Their goodbye was formal, proper, a handshake on the front porch, an exchange of professional courtesy. Yet beneath the politeness ran an undercurrent that Anna couldn't ignore. A connection formed in crisis, strengthened in recovery, now suspended between what was and what might have been. "If Elizabeth shows any signs of relapse," she began, "I'll send for you immediately," he finished. "Though I pray it won't be necessary." "As do I." Anna adjusted her gloves, suddenly reluctant to take the final step into the waiting carriage. "Mr. Thornton, I'm Michael," she said, using his given name for the first time. "Thank you for trusting me with Elizabeth's care. With your trust so hard, one, I consider it a truly special gift." Something shifted in his expression, a careful formality giving way to raw emotion. "Anna," he replied, matching her intimacy, "you didn't just save my daughter. You reminded me what it means to hope again, to trust again." Their eyes held for a long moment, words unnecessary between two people who had shared vigil over a beloved child, who had glimpsed each other's deepest wounds and strongest convictions. "I must go," Anna said, finally breaking the spell. "The stage waits for no one, not even doctors." Thornton nodded, stepping back. "Safe journey, Dr. Holliday." The carriage pulled away, hooves crunching on the gravel drive. Anna did not look back, could not bear to see the ranch house recede into the distance. She focused instead on the road ahead, on the children waiting in Helena who needed her skills. 3 months passed. Summer matured into early autumn, bringing cooler nights and golden light to the mountains. The scarlet fever epidemic had finally abated, leaving Anna exhausted but satisfied with the relatively few lives lost. Her practice continued to grow, with more patients seeking her out specifically, her gender now less remarkable than her reputation for both skill and compassion. On a crisp September morning, Anna was reviewing patient notes in her small office when a knock interrupted her concentration. Her assistant, a young woman named Mary, poked her head in. "Dr. Holliday? There's a gentleman here to see you. Says he's come quite a distance." Before Anna could inquire further, the door opened wider and Michael Thornton stepped into her office. He looked different, his hair trimmed, his clothes more formal than the working rancher's attire she remembered. But his eyes were the same intense blue, now fixed on her with undisguised emotion. "Mr. Thornton," Anna said, rising from her desk in surprise. "Is it Elizabeth? Has she relapsed?" "Elizabeth is flourishing," he assured her quickly. "Strong as a young colt and twice as stubborn. She sends her love to her lady doctor." He hesitated, then added, "I've come on a more personal matter. Please sit." Anna gestured to the chair across from her desk, her heart racing for reasons that had nothing to do with professional concern. Thornton remained standing. "3 months ago, you left my home having performed 2 remarkable feats of healing. One I recognized immediately, my daughter, restored to health through your skill and dedication. I was only doing my job," Anna protested softly. "The second," he continued as if she hadn't spoken, "I only came to understand in the weeks that followed. You see, after you left, I found myself thinking of you constantly, remembering our conversation, the way you challenged me, the way you saw through my bitterness to the man I used to be." Anna's breath caught. "Michael, let me finish, please. I need to say this properly." He took a step closer to her desk. "I realized that you had healed something I thought beyond repair, my capacity to trust, to imagine a future beyond grief and isolation." He reached into his coat pocket and withdrew a small, carefully preserved flower, a mountain columbine, pressed between pages to maintain its delicate shape. "Elizabeth found this on a ride last week. She remembered you saying they were your favorite, how they reminded you of the resilience of beautiful things in harsh environments." "She has a remarkable memory," Anna murmured, touched by the gesture. "She asked me to bring it to you, and I realized I had been seeking an excuse to come, to see you again." "To ask," uncharacteristic uncertainty crossing his features. "To ask if you might consider visiting Thornton Ranch again, not as our physician this time, as our guest, as my friend, and perhaps in time, something more." Anna looked at the man before her, this proud, wounded rancher who had fought his way back from despair, who had learned to open his heart again despite every reason to keep it sealed. And she thought of Elizabeth, bright and fearless, with her father's strength in her mother's eyes. "Mr. Thornton," she said formally, then softened. "Michael, in my profession, I've learned to recognize signs of healing. The return of color to pale cheeks, the strengthening of a weak pulse, the first deep, clear breath after illness, as she rose from behind her desk, meeting him on equal ground. What I see before me is a man well on his way to healing, and I find I would very much like to witness the completion of that remarkable recovery. His smile then was like sunrise breaking over mountain peaks, gradual, transformative, illuminating. Is that a yes, Dr. Holliday? That is a yes, Anna confirmed, her own smile matching his. Though I should warn you, I'm a difficult patient, stubborn, opinionated, entirely too independent for most men's comfort. I wouldn't have it any other way, Michael replied, offering her the pressed flower with a formal gesture. Couldn't hide the warmth in his eyes. Elizabeth and I rather admire difficult women. They tend to save us when we need it most. As Anna accepted the delicate blossom, their fingers brushed, a simple touch that promised more to come. Outside her office window, the mountains stood eternal against the autumn sky, witnesses to this unexpected meeting of two hearts once broken, now mending each other with the most powerful medicine of all, love freely given and gratefully received. When Anna Holliday returned to Thornton Ranch 2 weeks later, the transformation was evident before she even reached the house. Fresh paint gleamed in the sunlight. The flower beds had been restored, autumn blooms nodding in the breeze. Shutters hung straight, windows sparkled, and the porch had been swept clean of the dust and neglect that had marked her first visit. Elizabeth ran to meet the carriage, her cheeks rosy with health, her dark curls bouncing as she jumped up and down in excitement. Dr. Anna, Papa said you might stay for a whole month. Will you? Please. Behind her, Michael Thornton stood on the porch, watching the reunion with undisguised pleasure. As Anna knelt to embrace Elizabeth, her eyes met his over the child's shoulder. The connection between them was immediate and powerful. No longer doctor and patient's father, but a man and woman drawn together by shared experience, mutual respect, and the fragile growing bloom of something that might, with proper care, become love. Welcome back, he said simply when she reached the porch, extending his hand to her. Anna took it without hesitation, her medical training noting the strong, steady pulse beneath her fingers, the warmth of healthy circulation, the gentle pressure that spoke of controlled emotion. All signs of healing, of life reclaiming its rightful place after the long winter of grief. It's good to be back, she replied, and meant it with her whole heart. Elizabeth tugged at her skirt. Papa says you can teach me to be a lady doctor too if I want. Can you? Will you show me your special listening thing? Anna laughed, the sound bright in the clear mountain. I'd be honored to teach you, Elizabeth, though I suspect you'll be teaching me a few things as well. As they entered the house together, not as doctor and patient, but as the beginning of something like family, Anna reflected on the strange paths that had led her to this moment. From Boston society to battlefield hospitals to the Montana Territory. From prestigious medical school to the bedside of a fevered child in a remote ranch house. She had come to Thornton Ranch to heal a little girl and had ended up mending a broken family, including, perhaps, her own lonely heart. Some would call it fate, others coincidence. But Dr. Anna Holliday, woman of science and reason, preferred to think of it as simply medicine working as it should, restoring what was damaged, nurturing what was weak, and ultimately creating the conditions where healing could flourish and life could begin anew.